What is up, everyone? In this video, I'm going to teach you how to structure and build the foundation for a JSON API in Golang, right? And I'm going to show you an idiomatic approach how to handle HTTP handlers and all that stuff, right? But before we continue, if you like the videos I'm providing to you, consider subscribing to my channel. Give me a thumbs up, leave some questions in the comments, jump into the Discord. Thank you very much. Let's go. So basically, a lot of people are asking me, hey, but how do I need to structure my APIs? How do I need to do that stuff? What do I need to use for framework? You don't need to use anything for framework. That's the first thing, right? Don't do it. It's maybe easy for you, but in Golang, the community loves to build things with the standard library because the standard library is the best you will ever encounter. So the first thing you need to do is basically what I always do is what's going on here is basically everything is going to house in the root folder. That's what I'm always doing. I'm not going to over-engineer this with folders and models and all that stuff. I don't do that unless I need to in a certain point of time, because it's better to scale up in folders than to scale down, because a lot of people are creating all these folders but at a certain point of time they will have circular dependencies, and refactoring circular dependencies can be a pain in the ass. So don't do that, because you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. Just start in the root, and you can make different files if you want. If you think everything in main is going to be nasty, well, then you split things out in files, but not in folders, right? All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is what I always do is, let's begin with the basics. Let's start with the basics. So in Golang, creating an HTTP handler is very simple. It's basically say HTTP is going to handle func. You give it a path, for example, /user. And then I'm going to say handle get user by ID or something, maybe like this. This is more idiomatic. Of course, we don't have this function, so let's join this guy or girl. I don't know what it is. You tell me. I'm going to say HTTP response writer. Then we're going to say an R is going to be an HTTP request, just like that. And we already have a handler, and now everybody is fine. So if you want to run this thing, you say HTTP listen and serve. Give this guy a port, like what's going on here, 3000, the holy grail of ports, and then this is going to be null. Right? And if you run this, you could say go run main.go, and it's what's going on here. Is this a bug? Didn't save. Okay, cool. So you just press go run main.go and your server is running. And if you do a request to /user, hey, it's going to work perfectly fine. Cool. But of course, it will not show anything because our handle get user by ID handler is not responding. So it's a get user by ID. So we can assume that if the OR method, right? If the OR method is not equal to HTTP method get, then we can actually return an error. So how do we return an error? We cannot return an error because this function does not have a return type. So what we need to do is we need to write a response to the client. How do we do that? We could say write header. Is basically writing the status code. Is going to be HTTP status method not allowed, right? And then we're going to say header add, it's going to be content type application JSON. It's a whole shebang. And then actually here we could actually say write me some bytes, not allowed, actually whatever, right? So something here not allowed. And of course we return here, so we don't execute this code here. Easy. But I don't think it's idiomatic. First of all, this whole thing is a problem because if we have another error, let's replicate another error. For example, if some token is not set, you need to again return JSON and a status, and it could be a status unprocessable entity. It could be a status internal server, so you can see where it's going, right? The first thing I do, let's delete this real quick, is I'm going to make a function to clean this a little bit up. Is write JSON it's gonna take an HTTP response writer. Response writer is gonna take in a status, which is gonna be an int, and it's gonna take in a v, which is gonna be anything, and it's gonna return an error. Okay, so in this case, we can already copy some stuff from here, like this. That's fine. The only thing we're gonna change here is gonna write the status we give it. Okay, and then we're gonna basically here we're gonna return. We're gonna say JSON new encoder W encode V. Boom, and this is already done, right? So we can clean this up, and we could actually say we cannot return yet. We cannot return yet, so we need to do this if r is gonna be write JSON W HTTP status method not allowed, and then we could pass in anything here, right? It doesn't matter, and then we need to fetch the error. You can see it's already again. We need to fetch the error, and then we need to write again a response if that's not working. So it's a pain in the ass, right? So let's move this out. What I wanna do actually, and let's make this actually cleaner. First of all, what I always do also is I'm gonna make a type. For example, I call it API error. It's gonna be a struct. It's going to have an R, it's going to be an error type, and then you're going to have a status, for example, could be an int, and then you make a simple function. So this error, this API error will implement API error. If you do this, right, and it's returning a string, then this basically means that it implements the error interface, and you can return it just like a normal error. So in this case, I'm going to say return ER, something like that. All right, that's done. Cool. So in this case, what I'm going to do is just return this write JSON, and I'm going to make an API error here. And the error is going to be invalid method or something. And then the status is going to be the status HTTP method not allowed. And what's going on here? Yeah, wait. We can't. What is our JSON telling us real quick? Yeah, of course. So we cannot do this, right? We cannot return it because this function cannot return. So we need to say this. It's going to be, oh, it's an error. I see. Actually, what we could do is make this a string. And then instead of doing error here, we could just return the error, right? And now everybody's happy. Of course, this is a long function, I know, but you need to know that my font is also a very hard scaled, and we're gonna make this better. Trust me. So the problem next that we have is this. This is gonna be a problem because this handle get user by ID is not a handle func. It's not a handler func. Let me GD this thing. No definitions. What's going on? What did I do actually? What did I do once again? Go run main.go. Expected package. Did I delete this? Nasty. Package main. You need to know that this font is so zoomed on my screen. It's crazy, but hey, sacrifices for you. So let's take a look at this. Boom. Handle func, which is basically just a handler, which is a func that takes in a response writer and a request. Okay. Problem is, we take a response writer and a request, but we also return an error, so it's not compatible. So let's make it compatible. The next thing I do is I make another type, and it's going to be an API func, which is going to be a typed func. We're going to say it's going to take in a HTTP, and you could do it like this: HTTP response writer pointer to HTTP request. And request, and it's going to return an error. That's our API func. Of course, now we need to find a way to turn this guy into a handler, so it's compatible with the standard library. So we do some idiomatic things. The next thing, what we need to do for that is make a function, and I'm going to call it make HTTP handler. We're going to take in this API func. API func, and it's going to return an HTTP, I think a handler func, right? That's what it's going to return. So this is going to be compatible with that other thing, with HTTP handler. So we're going to return a function, and that function is going to take the same thing. It's going to be an HTTP response writer. Response writer is going to take in an R pointer to HTTP request. Just like that. And then we're going to say if r, right? Because this function is our API func. So, and our API func returns an error. So we're going to say f, we pass in the writer, the request, and if the error is not nil, then we can say write JSON. For example, W, and the status, we don't know yet, right? We don't know yet. So we're going to say internal server error status, internal server error, and then we need to have some kind of an error. So it makes it nice to the user. It's going to be an API error, for example. And we're going to say internal server error because we don't want to provide too much information, and the status is going to be internal server. It's going to be error actually, error. And if you wanna make this JSON compatible, JSON encodable, serializable, you need to make these caps. So this is going to be an R, internal server error, and this is going to be, yeah, let the status for now because we're going to change it soon. This is going to return E caps. What's going on? And then of course here the same thing. Big E, big S. Yes. All right. This is our function. So now you can see that we have a centralized error handler, right? Instead of handling all these errors here and all that shebang in our handler, and now we can just return, in this case, a nice response to the user, an OK. There's going to be a W, HTTP status OK, and then we could actually make a user. Something like this, give it an ID, int, and then you fetch user from the DB and you put this guy or girl or thing, and you have your handler complete. Very nice and smooth. Of course, this guy is still complaining, so instead of saying handle get user by ID, we could say make HTTP handler, yes, just like this, hop, and everything is fine. Now we don't have any errors anymore. Okay, the next problem we have is this, right? Because we make an HTTP internal server error, and maybe we want to return a method not allowed, just like this. You see? So what we could do in this case is, instead of saying write JSON, right, we could actually make it even better. The only thing we're going to do is we're going to say return this API error. Because this API error implements the error interface. Okay? This API error implements the error interface because I'm going to actually group this function on top, to be honest. Like this. So this implements the error interface, so we can just return it from our handlers. Nice and clean. Super nice and clean. So, and then we can make a custom error. We could say invalid method. We could do an fmt print as or something to show the user is method he used or something. Hey, be creative. And this is going to be the status. So how we gonna, what we could do is we could say if r is going to be an API error. Actually, I think it's not a pointer, so we're going to say this. Then we could actually copy this guy, and we need to have pointers. Is it a point? It's going to be if we could say E. Wait, how do we do this? I think we could. Is that not true? How do we do this real quick? Well, I could do it like this, right? So you could say underscore is going to be, no, you could say okay. If you could say this, E okay. We could do this, why not? And then say Okay, doing things on the fly. What basically this does is it checks if this error is of this type. And if so, then we're gonna write, instead of HTTP internal server error, we're gonna write the E status. And of course we don't gonna, this API error, we could actually return this to the screen, just like that. So a nice representation. And we can return here, so we don't execute double errors. We don't write 2 times to the same writer, to the same response. And otherwise, we will just return an, hey, if it's not that type of error, we're just going to return an HTTP internal server error. And you can actually make it clean by just saying here that the status is going to be, I don't know, 500, doesn't matter. Or you could say HTTP status internal server error if you want to make it clean. Right, so now we have a centralized HTTP handler, because what you could do, for example, if your user is not, maybe he has an invalid token or something, right? What you could do is you could say, I'm going to say if, you know what, let's do this. Let's make it a little bit more realistic. I'm going to say that the user is going to be a user, right? And you're going to say if user valid, if he's not valid, I don't know, of authorized, you know what I mean? Then we're gonna, let me return this guy here real quick. Yes. So if the user is not valid, then we're going to return an API error, right? You could say API error R not authorized. I'm just gonna find something and make something up, right? It's gonna not authorized or not user not valid or something. Maybe it's better user not valid, right? And then you could choose what kind of status you wanna give to this. I'm not quite sure. HTTP a bad request or something, or maybe not authorized. Is something with authorized? Not authorized? Is that a thing? Wait, status not acceptable. Status. I have no clue. I have legit no clue. Status forbidden. Let's do forbidden. Why not? You know, you get the point. I'm not the HTTP error status code specialist. I'm not gonna lie. I just looked things up. I need it. So something like that. I was choking. Not gonna lie. A little bit of choke sometimes. Hey, that happens the best. Yes. So for example, now you can see how clean this is, right? You just return your own custom errors, and you can actually even pre-code these. You could even say, let's delete this. Something like this. You could say var r user invalid or something, and paste this in. Right? And then, of course, it's hard coded, but then you could just say return r user invalid. You see? Even cleaner. Wait, what am I doing? What am I doing? Yes, it's still early, not gonna lie. Need to warm up. Okay, cool. So you see, you can make things cleaner and cleaner and cleaner if you want, and more short and more readable and whatever you want to do with it. You see? So basically, right now, everything works perfectly fine, right? So we could say something like, do I have Tinder client? Let's first run this real quick. Go run main.go. Then open up Tinder client. Boom. We're going to say HTTP / localhost. It's going to be 3000 / user. Let's see what's going on here. Boom. So we have a user not valid, right? Because if I open up my main here, this valid is gonna be default initialized to false, right? So we're gonna return an R user invalid, and you can see the status is 403, and if I can, you see, Our status is also 403. And if we do, for example, a post request, then we're going to say a 405, the method is not allowed, and then the error is going to be invalid method. So application working perfectly, just like intended. So that's the thing, right? It's of course, it's not a complete JSON project, I understand, but it's not the intention of this video. The intention of this video is to show you how you can structure things in an idiomatic way. Is it the best? Maybe not, but it's something that I'm using basically for a lot of years, and I never changed it. So and make it your own, right? But this is readable, and I think also idiomatic. It's compatible with the HTTP standard library. We don't do anything different. We're just decorating all that stuff to fit our needs and to make it a little bit clearer and more easier to maintain. All right, and if you want to know how you structure these projects, well, like I said, you could do everything in main. If you have a small service, there's no need to split it out. But if you really want, you could say, hey, I'm going to make a types Go file, right? And if you have a types Go file, you could say main, and then you could split out your user, for example, put this guy in here, package main, no need for another package, right? So unless somebody needs to import something from you, right? If you need to import if somebody else, a client, for example, like a client package for your API, and somebody needs to import a user, then you could make your types package so it's importable by other projects. But hey, if that's not the case, everything just in the root, right? So we have this user here. So this user is already gone. And then you can actually make another file. It's going to be error.go, for example. And you can, let's open up main here real quick. And then all these error shenanigans, paste it in here. Is it in the way of my camera? Nope. Package main, right? So you have your errors there. Do we still do some errors here? Nope. We have our main HTTP, and then you could say, if you really want to take this further, let's make a new file. You're gonna call this API.go, where all your handlers are living. Package main. Then I'm gonna quickly open up main here. Handle get user by ID. Boom. Oh, paste that guy in here. Make HTTP handler. We have, you know what? Just copy all the shebang in here. Why not? Boom. Write JSON. It's all API stuff. I'm gonna all copy it in here. Hop. Save this. Open up main here. Close the whole shebang here. You see? Now you have a very nice little main function, and everything is splitted out in its own files, but not in folders, because there's no need to, right? There's no need to. Cool. I think this covers everything I want to say to you. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to my channel. Give me a thumbs up. Leave some questions in the comments. Join the Discord. And for the people that really want to level up, consider checking out my Patreon page, where I'm doing a lot of exclusive video tutorials. Thanks for watching, and I'm looking forward to see you in one of my future live streams or videos. Bye bye.